So what I've, okay, great. So the step that I took is I just went to download Visual Store VS Code. I downloaded the VS Code Darwin, clicked it. So now it's an application that I have access to. This is how VS Code generally looks when you start coding. So I have actually opened one of the folders over here. This is the latest version of VS Code of July. Now, so the vanilla VS Code is okay, but I think it doesn't really give you a lot of functionality that you require. So a few of the things that I end up just adding to VS Code is one is just Vim key bindings. It's fine if you don't like Vim, but I like to install the Vim key bindings. Second is if you're doing anything JavaScript, so it's usually good to have like dedicated snippet manager, dedicated just JavaScript related tools over here so that it actually highlights code. Let me open one application over here. I have this sample Next.js Tailwind project that I end up using a lot of times. So I'm just going to open this up in VS. Usually it gives me a code. I'll have to copy this over to my applications. That was interesting. Usually I get the VS Code shortcut to actually open a folder. Instead, we'll just use the manual file and folder. Open. So this is a sample application that I've opened up. It has a bunch of code. So in source folder, I have certain components over here. I have two containers again. So this is a standard React application. It's irrelevant what the application is. The whole idea is how do we just go about using this whole application. So there is some ESLint RC, there is Next environment, package.json, which is the standard thing that we use mostly in JavaScript to just store all the variables. Let me just open the terminal. So VS Code comes with its own terminal. So now because the folder open is this application, I have the terminal access. So I can just do something like, first I'll just do an npm install. So it looks like everything is running. And I'll do npm run dev. Right? If you don't know much about npm node, that's fine. It's just how I'm just running a sample application just to show like the different workflows which is possible. So I just did npm run dev over here. It started a local web server, Next.js server. And when the Next.js server is running, I can now just go to localhost and just see what the application is running. You would have used some kind of HTTP server to actually create the JavaScript application. This is exactly like that. Now, a lot of default things already come in VS Code. So this is highlighting all the JavaScript. If I go to some CSS in styles, it is already highlighting certain styles. What usually is really good in terms of VS Code is a completion engine. So when I'm writing some new code, I want just completions to be there. For example, if I go to pages, index, and I want to write something like so now it's completing. So I wrote return, I did tap, I did the open and close curly braces, it automatically completed it. If I do something like div, I tap tab, it automatically completes it. So this just helps me write things in a much faster way. So I wrote class name, it automatically completed class name for me. Now if I want to do like a tailwind m top 4, it'll just keep on helping me with the completions. So some of the completions which are nice in VS Code is I can just go to search and extensions. Tailwind CSS. So this is just a CSS library. The whole idea is whatever library that you want, you can just go over here, find it. This says Tailwind CSS IntelliSense. I'll install it. I'll also find some library for maybe CSS. So this says HTML CSS support. So we will most often be using CSS over here. So I can just install this as well. Let's say we want to install something for, there's a standard. Yeah. This is GitHub Copilot, which is an application which is used to just complete, like it's ML based code completion. I just clicked install. Now it says source. I can actually sign into GitHub. So now this plugin is installed. This is the way we end up installing a lot of the plugins that are required. So depending upon the project that you're working, you can end up requiring multiple plugins. The standard plugins I always end up installing are GitHub Copilot, Tailwind, because I use a lot of Tailwind CSS, which let me just check the progress. This has already been installed. If I want to just look at the settings, I can just click over here, extension settings, and just see what are the default settings. Usually you don't have to play around much with the default settings. I'll just go with an example of just creating a new file. So I just did Control N. Okay, I did Control N. Let's just rename this. Let's create a new page, new file. Let's call it test.tsx. Don't worry about the TSX extension. This is just like just plain, this is React extension, but you can just use it for anything. If I want to just create a simple page, export. And just copy things over because I keep forgetting the syntax. So I can just copy this over. Copy. I copied this over. Some of the items are missing. I'll just delete some of these things. I'll import head. And I'll import. And not import header. So I've created, because I was running the auto thing, it has already recompiled it. Now, if I go back to the browser, I can go to /test and see that there's a blank screen. Let me add something so that it's visible as to what we did. Actually, this is hidden. So if I go over here, I can start seeing this. Just give me 1 minute. Someone's at the door. I'll just be back in a minute. Just one.
Sylvia, maybe unmute and ask your questions when he's back, yeah?
Yes, I'm back. Which extension could we download for using emojis? I think emojis are directly supported over here. I'll also explain what Vim is about. Sorry for not. No, don't think emoji is supported. So I'll just, let me share my screen again. Yeah, so Vim is a editor just like VS Code. That's what I use most of the time. For example, I'll just show what Vim looks like. I can do Vim README. If I open this folder and I go here, this is like a terminal-based editor that I most often use. It's a little faster than VS Code, but it's something that takes some time to get used to. So I would suggest not getting used to Vim. It's just easier to use VS Code. So let's see emoji support, right? You can just look at emoji in extension, plug in to insert emojis in the command palette. Usually, whenever you download packages, make sure you see how many install counts are here. This is just to make sure that this is not some package which is problematic. I also go look at the tick mark. Over here, we can see this person has a tick mark. So this means that this is a trusted package. Then I can just do install for the package. Just make sure that the downloads are usually not less than 100,000. And you're just downloading from someone who is trusted. This guy also has something called Emoji Sense. Let me just check. So this can auto-complete emoji. I can just install that, go back to my file, go back to test. Let me see if it works. Smile. Doesn't look like it's worked. Another thing which is very important in VS Code is this command palette. I can just do Control P, and this opens up the entire panel where I can move around folders. So I had one app. When I click search app, it took me to the app file. If I press Command P again, there is another useful shortcut. You press Command P on the Mac OS or Control P, I think, on Linux. You get this file. If I press the greater than arrow, it actually gives me all the commands that I have at disposal. So I can just do extension and look at the different extension. Or I can just do open folder. It'll allow me to open folder. If I do settings, it'll just show me the different settings that are there. So I was trying to look at extension. Let me just back. I have installed this, settings. How do you open it? Add support for emoji syntax. Let me just try a markdown file. I'll just go back over here to Command N. I will save this as temp.md. This is a markdown file now. So yeah, now we have support for emoji. I just did first place metal. So I just did colon. Then I can just type smile. I hit tab, that completes it, and the emoji is entered. So now we have emoji support. So this is the usual flow in which you install extensions. Just make sure that you only install extensions which are from trusted authors, which have more than 100,000 downloads, so that there's nothing nasty going on over there. A lot of times the extensions might be corrupt. The other way is to just figure out extensions over here. So if I go to Google, I can do JS extension for VS Code. Let's do a React extension for VS Code because we want completion. So one of the most powerful feature of VS Code is completion. So this says, okay, top 10 extensions for VS Code. This is prettier code formatter, ES7. So let's see if we can get some. You just search over here, React. So this says, again, this person is recommended, there are 1 million. And so this says simple React snippets. So I'll just install this. I'll go back over here. I'll go here. Let me see. Import. So this entire line completion was powered by GitHub Copilot. I just wrote import and it suggested the entire line. It actually is very powerful. I can do things like import, use state, and then I can just do, yeah, it started completing things. So this is how completion will work. Once you enable the plugin, it will start just giving you these automatic suggestions, which you can tab complete and get hold of. Okay. So now should we go through any particular thing in VS Code? So we've gone through how to download extensions, how to install VS Code, how to use the command palette, which is probably one of the most useful features. The other thing is open new external terminal. Okay, do that. Yeah. So command palette, open terminal. I will have terminal, but you can just open the terminal from here. You can do all kinds of things. Let's just install something like Luxon. So whenever you're installing something, you can just use the command panel to install things. Yeah, there is also a debug output console. These are not that relevant when you're actually using JavaScript, HTML, CSS. If you're using certain languages like C++, etc., they come to you. So you can ignore that for now. Do we want to dig deeper into something? Or do you have any questions on this?
I think we'll have to download ourselves and try it out first till this
Yeah,
part.
yeah, I think.
Yeah, this is all like, at least for me, it seems like extremely new. I need to try it out to actually understand this a little bit better and then come back to you for doubts.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to have like 2 sessions, to be very honest.
Yeah.
This session was just about downloading VS Code and just about installing extensions which are safe. Because I can just go on a 1 hour complete editing workflow over here, but that will not be of help. If
Yeah.
you want to just try to download right now, we can download it because we have some time. Or we can also do something wherein you can download and we do another session later.
Yeah, I think that would be better because once we download it and then sure, all of us downloading it, trying it out,
Yeah.
and then coming back to you for the next session, that'd be better. So another thing what we can do is in the next, before having the next session, we can have like a list of things that we want to learn specifically so that you can go through that so that it's better and a little bit more curated.
I think I can just give like 3-4 steps that we need to do.
Yeah.
Install VS Code, install an extension, open a folder in VS Code. We can just have a repository. This is a repository. I'll do one thing. I'll just write these instructions in a markdown file, share it in the Discord so that everyone can try it out. If someone finds any difficulties, then we can just go through it.
Sure.
But right now, I would just want to know what kind of editors all of us are using right now.
So we are just practicing on Scrim by itself. So
okay. Which makes sense. The only problem with Scrimba is probably you don't get access to version control. Yeah. Right. So VS Code is really nice. So essentially, because it's a Git repository, yeah, it also tells me that these are the changes. So if I go over here, it says that there's a new file. I won't go into the details because I think Git is not a part of the whole project right now. But it has access to Git so that if you're committing changes and you want to revert changes, it becomes very easier. And the terminal is also very useful.
Okay.
So I think I'm going to just give like 4 or 5 steps, which is installing VS Code. I have this repository already set up, installing the packages of this repository, just running a simple application in this repository so that you can actually go there and test out how you can just run simple applications on the terminal. So I'll just share these steps in the Discord so everyone can try it out.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Then that'd be helpful, I guess.
Yeah, perfect. And if you have any questions after that, I'll just answer them.
All right. Yep. And
Cool.
after we download and start practicing, like I mentioned before the next section, we'll have like a curated things so that you can go through that so that it's easier for you as well.
Yeah, okay.
Cool.
Cool.
All right.
So
I'm gonna stop.